Hello, this is the Harvard Light. I'm Mary. I give a conservative perspective about the world around me. So feedback is important. Feel free to reach out. I greatly appreciate those who have done so. All right, so it's on the audio platforms that I'm on speakers, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, just to name a few. All right, so this episode is centered around the fan theories about the show, The Big Bang Theory. Here we go. Okay, so here's some thoughts that I have before I get into the aspects of the facts. All right, so it's quite interesting with Chuck Lorre. So I will say this, I've watched his shows, where it goes from Roseanne, where it goes to The Big Bang Theory, where it goes to Young Sheldon, and so forth. Quite interesting here. So, what I noticed that with Chuck Lorre's characters, they're not blatantly going to the aspects of being a stereotype. They behave in which, and also Mike and Molly. They behave in which, they're caricatures. So you can't. So it is one of those gray matters of getting away from the quote unquote cliche, the elephant in the room here. And so I think that Macaulay Culkin said it best. So some years ago, he went on Joe Rogan's podcast and he said that he was approached to be a character on The Big Bang Theory. And so he said, rather renownedly, but professionally, that I will pass. So he went into explaining the reason behind him passing. He said, I don't want to be a part of I'm paraphrasing here, but essentially he doesn't want to be a part of the machine perpetuating stereotypes of what people think or just be a part of the problem. And so, that it's really prevalent a lot in shows like this that they don't really, get into the depths about or just having assorted people and just having more depth and layer to the characters. I guess that's one of those things where you look at the foundation of sitcoms when, essentially they, for the most part, they are supposed to just be gentle observations or just glance over observations about the aspects of the interpersonal relationships or different dynamics of the ranges of humanity. But, that's a different subject here. But like I said before, with my other thoughts with the Truman Show, and again, on Monday, that fan theories are quite unique because they go into depth to give more meaning behind what isn't there. So, it's quite interesting with a show like Big Bang Theory because it centers around the aspects of science and discovery. So at the essence of it, flaws and all with science, it's supposed to center around the aspects of questioning and the unknown. And so the fact that they have the situational comedy, talking about the inner personal workings of men who have dedicated their lives to this profession says one thing about what is thought of when it comes to science and quote unquote nerd culture. I would say that, again, we have to be very careful with the aspects of, stereotypes are going to be, it's something that's unavoidable. People with their best intentions, they're going to lump each other or lump people into categories that makes it easier to understand. And there's nothing wrong with that. But the fact of the matter is that it's one of those things that it's kind of it's much more different when you get in the realms of entertaining and saying, just perpetuating these things. So, for instance, when you get the Raj, he literally cannot speak to women, the opposite sex, without having a drink or something, his senses being altered, which, clues in to a fan theory to saying, again, there's an extra layer to that. There's not here. There's more than meets the eye. And, the aspects of Leonard and his disposition with everyone and with Penny, that whole, she's woe is me, she's out of my league, but I'll try, sort of mentality about that, which there's another cliche on to that. There's another cliche on to Penny, the way that she looks. She's very attractive young woman. And the stereotypes that come with that too. And so, these fan theories all connect into a conclusive agreement that it's trying to, in itself, say that there's more layers to what isn't said and what should possibly be said, if this maybe was on, you pay entertainment, where it comes to, at that time, we get cable, satellite, and so forth. And then it was getting in the cuffs of streaming devices where, Hulu was the first, and then everything that's going on now. But my point is, maybe if a show like this was on Showtime or HBO, or even maybe possibly, AMC centers herself around drama, so maybe not AMC. But my point is, maybe, it might get into a little extra element to the characters and see them from a different point of view. But even then, who knows? Because, in itself, when you have networks like HBO, you have networks like Showtime, they do have some shows that push the elements and that are awfully, in their discretion, showcasing reality, where, guts and gore and sexual context and all of that to explain the story a lot better. But again, with the aspects of, most of the time, networks like Showtime or networks like HBO are left-leaning. So, there's all that too, where there's some biases within, not wanting to go certain levels. And so, iterating again, I think that that's the emphasis of importance of people thinking about, or, the creators confirming, or the aspects of having the opportunity to express theories beyond what is being presented in the content in which, film, literature, and what so far was created, because that gives the active from a viewer point of view, the active curiosity to examine something for more than what it is, which is sometimes a bad thing, but it's good because it gets into the element of the consciousness of the culture at hand. And so again, I can't stress enough, that's what's we have so much of a privilege here in America that we have the opportunities to just freely discuss things like this. And so again, that's why I think it's very important to protect the amendments to do so. And then, when we get into the business of saying, oh, your speech is wrong, or I don't agree with you, so I'm going to blatantly say something that is a slur towards you, that is, something that is just unwanted, is not true, just because you have disagreements. And see, if we get into the boundaries of seeing things from that point of view, or seeing things from that element, we won't have the opportunities to grow and to develop when it comes to the aspects of culture. And so that's why it's prevalent to have that sort of mindset when it comes to things like this. And then that's why it's prevalent to, keep in mind the aspects of, what is presented and what is actually being said. I mean, what is, brought up, that what is seen as, pop culture. What is behind all of this? Why is the reasons for that to be? And so, another thing with Chuck Lorre and the aspects of different characters that are presented, in his shows, they softly talk about, sometimes when he wants to here, they talk about, things that are, well, they just are somewhat, I guess, from their viewpoint, that something that's unbalanced and with how things are, and that's just unfortunate, the aspects of the double standard with things. And I think a really good example of this is in the dynamic that is going on in the show Roseanne. Now, you get into a whole different ball frame when you have shows that is centered around a comedian and their stand-up and stuff like that. But for the most part, it was quite odd in the disposition, in a way that the men in the family and the women in the family flowed together. And so in itself is, saying a lot about the aspects of the disposition, again, of being a caricature of the aspects of feminism. They don't abruptly have these stereotypes of what a feminist is. He showcases a lot in his work, the caricatures of what people are, or claim that they are. And I think that's what he was cluing into the aspects of the way that things would flow in with a show like Roseanne, and the disposition that the mother and the father had with their rearing the children and everything else, versus a show like Married with Children here, where they would make a lot of honest social commentary about the aspects of the craziness and the sanity that happens in life, and trying to figure those things out, and then, just making light of it. And so, and the list goes on with Chuck Lorre. We have 2.5 Men, the aspects of talking about misogynism and masculinity, what's behind that. And, you having this, with John Cryer's character, you having this man that's less inferior. He's sort of his soul has been sucked down because he's just being very, very pretty much like a doormat towards his ex-wife. And so that also relates to the aspects of his own personal issues with why would you choose or why would you want to be in a relationship like that. And so, that's part of the issues with shows like this. They I guess they skate around the aspects of talking about something, but they don't want you to be cause trouble or rock the boat or saying, oh, how could you just blatantly have the stereotype. They make characters just move the story along so they get people interested in it. Even with Mike and Molly here, there's a lot of caricatures in the aspects of, you have the young, pretty daughter, her younger sister, staying at home, carefree because she can be, and she doesn't really have any reason to leave. And then you have Molly, who is this intellect, but at the same time, emotionally, she's at a lot of crossroads. And then, here we come with Mike to, smoothing everything out and to make everything cohesive with going in the line of work. He happens to be a cop, which is, one of those things that going again with the stereotype of what a cop is supposed to be portrayed as, And even him being overweight goes into a lot of undertones about the aspects of how cops and their dispositions or how they are seen in public most of the time. And then even Carl, his friend, he grew up with him, but he happened to be his partner. His disposition and the aspects of being a young black man, still his background where his mom didn't really want him. His grandmother didn't want to do it, but she was she had to raise him. And then within raising him, that changed her perspective about things. And then, this whole dynamic that they have in between them is another stereotype about the aspects of saying the conclusive decision about black culture, which, again, that is stereotypes, and that does not really at large talk about how actually people are, race wise or what have you, just the aspects of what's really going on in reality. So with all this said here, I am going to get into the facts about theories on the Big Bang Theory. Here we go. Okay, so of course these sources will be provided for you in this episode. Okay, here we go. We're just pulling them up here, and they are quite interesting, I think so. All right, so well, I have no, that's not it. All right, so here's what I'm gonna do. I am going to do it this way. Again, I'm going to start backwards, okay? And then I'm going to get into the AI generated responses as far as theories. So this is from Ranker, and it says 15 reasons the Big Bang Theory is so much darker than anyone has noticed. All right, so it says Sheldon is in a mental institution, and the show only takes place in his head. It says Redditor, theory guys, goes on to say and to claims that Sheldon is in a mental institution, perhaps even for offing his father and his father's mistress. They go on to say that both Sheldon and Leonard are in a Los Angeles facility. Leonard was admitted there after being lobotomized by the government for giving up secrets to North Korea. The show's other characters are also residents or doctors there. So according to the theory, Penny is a failed actress who turned into a substance use and a sex worker before ultimately landing in the facility. Amy is a neurologist who works in the institution, and she feeds into her obsessions with Sheldon by studying his brain. Raj is a doctor there instead of an astrophysicist. At the behest of his parents, and Howard is the facility's caretaker who constantly encourages intimate activities with Raj because he can't seduce women. Howard's mom does not exist. Redditor UPick234 claims that Howard's mother doesn't actually exist. Howard is just crazy and lonely and uses his ventriloquism to speak for her. Also, all of his friends like him so much and don't like him so much, and this is the aftermath of it. So, and he doesn't want to break it up, so he, is assuming the facade like a Norman Bates type of relationship, which is hold on, I'll be right back. Hold on. Alright, sorry about that. It's that time of season where allergies kicking my butt. Okay. Which is really odd, and it's something to how reality, they are imitating reality, because the movie Psycho is actually based on a known serial killer. So take that for what you will. All right, Sheldon demonstrates sociopathic behavior. So Redditor Sarah Mintz theory says that that theory makes the troubling claim that Sheldon is a sociopath based on his behavior. Sheldon is slightly intelligent, but he's selfish and understands human interactions to the point of being highly manipulative while remaining uninterested in people who cannot be useful to him in some way or shape or form. They continue to say he uses his gifted and talented. He uses his girlfriend as a human shield and talks about queen bees to his female friends, while lying that it has nothing to do with her social life when it clearly does. So that's quite interesting. Again, I think, like I said before in the beginning of the show. So you know what, guys? I'm not going to do an AI generated response. I'm just going to focus in on this here article. I think that it really suits well with these theories, and then going back and reading the AI generated responses, most of them repeat, so why do that? So anyhow, as I said earlier, Chuck Lorre has the tendency to not blatantly show characters as stereotypes. They're caricatures, and I think that Sheldon in itself is the hyperbole of a awkwardness of and then how the mentality of a know-it-all. Well, I'm going to use that to my advantage to this high extent. And yeah, I mean, in the real world, consensus, yeah, he would have that tendency to be a sociopath. But, that's something. But that's quite interesting. And again, it gets more depth to these characters where, things are lacking. All right, Penny is a spy. It says, Redditor Number Theory argues that Penny is a spy, citing a number of facts about her life that don't quite add up. First, Penny merely maintains a cover of struggling actress, which is why she never makes a real conceived effort to further her acting career. So secondly, she isn't really struggling financially. It is very evident by the fact that she can afford to live alone in a nice Pasadena apartment while only working as a restaurant server for income. The theorist also argues that Penny is technologically savvy, as evidenced when she steals Leonard's and Sheldon's Wi-Fi and uses gaming dependency as a cover to spy on Sheldon remotely. She also doesn't seem to have a social life outside of her neighbors. The theory argues that she only engages in her previous romantic entanglement to lure Leonard. And this lack of real-world connections is further proof of her secret identity. The Redditor believes that she is spying on the neighbors because the infamous elevator incident alerted authorities to two potentially dangerous scientists living in Pasadena. The scientists let misled secrets slip to a North Korean spy. So Penny, an American agent, was sent to monitor the situation. To add to this even further, so hear me out on this. So what if, how there are shows that do this, but they don't quite know how to portray that honestly. So there are shows that tackle the issue with you when you're coming to terms with something with either that's the identity that you wanted to have and you realize you don't want to be a part of it anymore because you want to evolve and be somebody different. And so what I mean by this is maybe the fact that Penny sees something within all of these characters about how they're smart and how they're, something beyond, even though with their flaws, there's something more meaningful to where most of them conduct their lives to where she wants to be a part of that. And so maybe it's just a whole thing where she doesn't want to be associated with people who just think about shallow subjects or think only in as long as it takes to finish their beer or what have you. And also the fact that she can afford these things on a shoestring budget that she would realistically have by working as a waitress, I think it clues into a long history when it comes to sitcoms of very attractive people. They have some of them have lucrative jobs, but most of them have mediocre jobs to where you're wondering how they can afford anything. Maybe that might be a subtle notch to that too. All right, so Bernadette is a cyborg created by Howard. Jim Parsons, who plays Sheldon, responded to a few of these fan theories. Jim Parsons is quite interesting because I went to the U of H and he went to U of H too. So former alumni there. Just interesting how his career spanned out and just never know. So one which claims that Bernadette is a cyborg created by Howard. The theory is based on three assumptions. So Howard is a world-class engineer. Bernadette shares many traits with Howard's mother. And normal women do not like Howard. So the third notation is that perhaps the theory's strongest piece of evidence is in response Parson asked a thought-provoking question. Don't we all build our own romantic cyborgs? So again, the aspects of the people who are on the foresight of the content, bringing more mystery to the content. All right, the show is secretly leading up to the apocalypse. Apparently, Leonard, Sheldon, Raj, and Howard are four scientists who will inevitably bring about the end of the universe through a combination of genius and carelessness. So the fan theory states that these four characters are the Teslas and Einsteins of their generations. They're allegedly even more ingenious than said scientists because their advanced knowledge is coupled with the advanced technology of the 21st century. The theory also contends that they're millennials, and millennials, according to the theorists, are terrible. They are selfish and hedonistic, and most brilliant of the millennial generation are destined to destroy the universe. So the show's theme song is another clue. It tracks the history of the universe all the way up to the main characters where it abruptly ends. And so this is the aspects of talking about the our pets there. So you hear noises in the background, it's our pets. So all right, going back to the millennial situation, where you can say that for Gen Z and various other generations, the fact of the matter is what's so prevalent with the aspects of the millennial generation, me being a part of that, is that most on surface level, the main consensus is that it's fine to have this all-inclusive where everyone's a winner, not actually having any adversity in your life, and not really going beyond your own personal goals, not having an all-inclusive purpose in life. And so I think that's a part of, again, including it with the aspect of the culture and the destruction of culture. So when you have, even though I'm a millennial, I don't have that sort of mentality. And then any normal person who has some, who has structure in their life, and they come to the terms and they realize what is, what they really want out of life, the meaning of purpose and family and so forth, and having a family of their own, these things of, having this sort of mentality of itself on you about, you're only selfish, you only think about yourself, and, get you pinned with this stereotype of a person, again, going to clue into the caricature of a stereotype. And I think that's, again, what is prevalent about the aspects of these characters. They're caricatures of, what you would expect somebody, the stereotype of a millennial, the stereotype of a scientist, the stereotype of an intelligent person, or, genius, as you will. And so how does that explain to other generations like Gen Xers or so forth? So good. And this is relevant, and I'll get to the next point here. So Chelsea Handler, okay, this is a prime example of this, boss queen, sort of feminist, sort of, hedonist behavior where, I'm fine, perfectly fine being alone. I'm 40, probably, well, really 50 plus, 50, 40, late 40s, going on to 50 here. And, life's a dream, but it's perpetually, is it? So, again, I think that what is really going on at the surface. This is my own opinion about this. It's just making social commentary about the aspects again, when not really doing that. Most sitcoms don't really do that, but how destructive that is to have that sort of selfish me. Everybody's a winner mentality here. All right, so Bernadette. Oh, I said that already. I'm sorry. Raj's difficulty talking to women stems from his father's absence. I'll be right back. Sorry. All right. It says that Redditor, I guess the lucky gal, attempts to explain Roger's communication issues by examining his childhood. They propose that Roger's father was absent and his mother played the dominant parental role in his young life. This could, according to them, be why Roger is much closer with Howard than any other character. So Howard's father was also absent, creating a stronger bond between the two friends. The Redditor then claims a change in his environment and less threatening women role models in his life for years helped him have this issue. So again, I think to add on to this, by literally he cannot speak to women is also a caricature of a stereotype of how quote unquote nerd, a nerd is supposed to be. So it says that Sheldon's mom is Jackie from Roseanne, but she is in witness protection. And I'm going to add on to a layer to this that I haven't found really that, hold on, because I really haven't found any theories that dig into this, and I am going to add on to this after I read this. So it says, according to Redditor Green Grass 88, they believe that the Big Bang Theory might be connected to Roseanne, given the number of actors and that the series shares. So John Galecki and Sarah Gilbert were both on shows and were in relationships in both shows. But they are the same characters, just years later. So maybe Jackie's son, Andy, on Roseanne is actually Sheldon from the Big Bang Theory. They had to leave Lanford and move to Texas and change their names because Jackie is a witnessed a crime and is now in witness protection. So to add on to this, I think that John Galecki and David was his name in Roseanne, and I think I think is quite interesting that maybe possibly his mom, the abusive mother that was in Roseanne, is possibly his mom. I can't think about what her name is, but his mother that's in that John Galecki's mother that's in Big Bang Theory. And hear me out on this. So I think that at the time that she was in that series, that that the abusive mom, David's mother, was in that series. She was probably in the midst of going through grad school or something, and you can see that his mom has high string tendencies, that she has some kind of mental issue, and she was sorting all the other things out, and then that's the manifestation of the aftermath of John Galecki's character in the Big Bang Theory, that was his life. And so he mentions that he has a sister, right? And he mentions that he has a brother in the series too. So maybe they just changed all the characters to where it's nicely writing out the aspects of explaining the untimely death of the actor who played Mark, his older brother, in Roseanne, because Mark was very pivotal, a very pivotal character in the series, and they just when they brought back the Connors, they just had Becky to where she was, really in a term of arrested development, because she couldn't grasp the fact of that she lost her husband and all these things. And that's quite interesting. It's quite interesting because also how those things link to one another. That Chuck Lorre, how he was a writer, a producer, he had his hand in the production of Roseanne. So I think maybe he had some preconceived, he had some notion, or he had some ideas to work out a series like the Big Bang Theory, and have little Easter eggs how these assorted characters are connected, and this is the aftermath of their lives, the ones that he wanted to flush out as more depth to that character in the series. All right, so it says characters are the butt of the show's joke. It says, according to this Redditor on New Leaf 37, today I attempt to unpack why the show is called The Big Bang Theory if it rarely, if ever, delves into the study of the universe. This was their conclusion. It says, my theory is that the theme song and the title are there to remind us every week that the universe is vast and grandiose, in a grandiose place. By contrast, the cast of the show is busying themselves with the latest issue of Green Lantern, a super rare collectible item, or how to get, into bed. The joke is that in the big picture, in the grand scheme of things, everything that is told to be important is just stupid and meaningless, and they become the cosmic joke. Howard the Duck is based on Howard the Duck. So one fan theory from TV tropes claims that Howard has an alter ego. Says that Howard Wolowitz has an exaggerate. Let me say that again. As he embellishes. I don't know why I can say this word. I'm tongue-tied. But he embellishes his self-perception of his attractiveness to women. So his forename, a deliberate shout-out to the hero of the film Howard the Duck, in which the alien and an alien in duck form arrives to Earth with a similar sort of self-belief and an unshakable confidence in his ability, and has an incredibly unlikely cross-species romance with an attractive woman. So the show displays a Marxist ideology. Let's get into this. It says, Day Palm of Obsession Deck offers an exceptionally deep dive into the Big Bang Theory. So the argument is that the show easily supports a fundamental Marxist reading, rests in the fact that the show is fundamentally disheartening. The show is slowly unfolding tragedy and rooted in the very unsentimental and perfectly Marxist worldview. It says, representing the two tenets of communism, humans are social and humans are socialized. So the first tenet is fairly self-evident. Humans rely on interaction with other humans to form notions of meaning, self-actualization, and freedom. However, the theory delves deeper with this second tenet. So the second point, it claims that there are almost mechanical products of societies, or ambitions or desires or sense of right and wrong, inevitably inescapable products of society. How we live shapes what we think about everything. What we want, what we think, what we want, and what we hate, what we fear. None of it comes from some unique personal space, but from a particular constellation of lived experience and social condition consisting is derived from this. Now, I think this is far-fetched because, again, it's avoiding the issue that any person, any moral person or actualized person will want to be a part of something other than themselves. That's the whole point of wanting to be social, wanting to be humanistic, wanting to grow and develop. Because, again, I can't stress this enough. Which is the problem with having this socialist and communist viewpoints. If you have this all for one, if you have this, on top of that, if you have this bad faith characters, embellishing the aspects of all for one, we're all together, but we're actually not all together because it's, and at the end, it's my what I can get and however I can get it, and damn everybody else. Hey, you're going to have a lot of destruction. And then also, I can't stress enough, going back to the aspects of, if you are just solely having the disposition in life that it only takes me to carry the weight of everything, and I'm the one that can just carry the weight of all of my issues that I have, or can solve everything, which is, good. You should have the actuality that you have to be self-reliant. You have to do something, make something of yourself. You have to be better than you are, then moving forward than the mentality, better than you were the other day, or just keep having that mentality to improve yourself. Yeah, sure. But if you never try to, build or establish real connections with people, build and establish, and become more understanding or more aware of how other people think and feel and see things, well, that's just not a life in itself. And I think that's what this person is not, from my point of view, this is what I'm getting out of it. They're not seeing that on the overall surface. That when you people solely have their own unique personalities, and yes, of course, mainstream culture builds upon attracting what people want and think, on a main consensus level, but that doesn't escape the reality of the situation that people are, different and individuals, and that when you get into the aspects of these bad faith characters, and then it's not all that black and white, and then people not understanding that life is not black and white, that there's so many different elements to the situation of how people are, think, feel, whether it be mentally, and so many other, or environmentally. Then we can get at the root of the matter of the value of the uplift of certain cultures, and why and certain ideologies flourish, and then ideologies like this, social, communism, and then when socialism is at its worst, you can see why. So Sheldon is Spock in disguise. So in a James Corden piece, Jim Parsons, who plays Sheldon, responds to numerous fan theories, including one that Sheldon is actually Spock, which is based on three pieces of evidence. Sheldon sometimes hears Spock's voice. Both Sheldon and Spock are nearly emotionless, and both love outer space. Parsons, skeptical of the theorist's claims, responding, this is his response, I could see how you could make that work for you. All right, so it says, and this is the end. It says, Sheldon and is Barry from How I Met Your Mother in alternate dimension. So Jim Parsons eagerly responds to the theory that Sheldon is actually Barney in the sitcom How I Met Your Mother in their opposite universe. The theorist cites three pieces of evidence to support their claims. It says they are actually polar opposite, that like bizarro level. Just think about it. Makes sense, right? Parsons revealed that he actually auditioned for the role of Barney Stinson, but he felt that he was very wrong for the part and almost ran screaming from the room following his audition. All right, so I'd like to know what you all think. This reaches the end. And feel free to use the sources to do so to reach out to me. All right, tune in, turn up, and definitely take care. Bye-bye for now.